Hi, everyone. This is Marilyn Bradford, and I would like to welcome you to my Left Turn podcast. What is your left turn? Writing a blog, parenting in a different way, letting go of the old because you are aware of something greater. Left turns are choices we can all make. It's about a willingness to step into the unknown in any area of your life, to trust yourself, to risk creating or trying something new. It's about letting your true uniqueness shine. The greatest people who have lived, artists, statesmen, writers, explorers, musicians, have all been people willing to turn left. What capacities do you have that you have not acknowledged? What would your life and the world be like if you were willing to turn left? Welcome, everyone. I'm Marilyn Bradford, and this is another edition of Left Turn Podcasts. And I have with me today a remarkable young man named Troy Aldanmaz, and I'm trying not to butcher the last name, who's from Turkey. And he's done quite a bit. He found Access about 6 years ago, and at that time, he was kind of depressed, and he was in medical school, and he was doing what he was supposed to be doing until his mother told him about Access Consciousness, and it was really light for him, and he just jumped in and has done so much since then. He's a Certified Facilitator. He's an XMen Facilitator. He's a Talk to the Entities Facilitator. He's an Abuse Hall practitioner. He just went, yeah, I'm going for it, and has left medical school and now has found so much more space and ease and just is going what we call in America gangbusters. So I don't think that translates very well, but you get the idea. So Troy, what are some of the biggest left turns you've had and chosen in your life?
Yeah, and I get like one of the big choices that I made would be like quitting the medical school, and I just want to say like it took me like 3 to 2 years to like actually making that choice. And after I think like my second year in the medical school, I was having like a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, and a lot of it was just like in Turkey, like I don't know like how it's in the different parts of the world. Like you either fail from the years or you just pass from the years. And
Okay.
I was not like super successful. So I was just like in right between. Like I was like, am I gonna fail? Am I gonna pass? And it was just like so much information to learn in a very short time. And like for me, it was just like a lot of pressure. And like personally in my life, I didn't have that pressure before in because it was everything was like super easy. And like when I come to medical school, I was like, whoa, okay, like this is beyond anything that I personally expected. And there was like such a pressure from my family, and even if it's that they were pressuring me, it was just like in my mind, like I was like, oh my god, if I fail, like what does this mean? I'm spending my parents' money, and like all of those like weird thoughts, and like when they combined together, it was just too much like for me. And like I pushed myself a lot, and that was my justification. I was like, I need to prove myself, I need to prove my family that I am not a failure, I can succeed, I can like make this happen. And I think it was like the third or the second year, in all of this stress, my mom, she just come up and she said, hey, I find something called access bars, and she's starting to apply to me. And it's a technique that you can touch someone 32 points on someone's head. And I was like, okay, like just do it. And the more that she applied the bars, like all of those anxieties and all of those thoughts of, oh, if I fail, like this means this, or like for me in that point, it was like the end of the world. Like I was like, if I fail, like I'm just done. And the more the bars I got my bars run, like there was a weird sense of relaxation and sense of peace and a sense of trust that it will be okay. Like even if I fail, like it is okay. And it was like something that I would experience like when I was a child, like in very little parts, but not like
Yes.
2 minutes, 1 minute. And like when I have that sense again, I was like, what is this? Like I would love to have like whatever this is more in my life. And I get like that was the beginning of the exploration and like the ask and the demand to like choose more of that. And like bars and was the beginning, and there was like so many extremely wonderful and practical access consciousness tools that allowed me to, I'm gonna say, like really starting to have a sense of what is true for me. And like one of the tools that I really loved and I use dynamically, like what is true for you, it's light for you. And if something is heavy, it's a lie. And like for me, that was like so beautiful and so light and so like expansive, because like before that everybody would tell me like, oh, if something is super heavy and it's something very hard, and if you achieve that, if you like pass through that, like you will be successful, and like then you know you made it. And I was keep going to places that was hard, and like when I just hear Dr. Dane here was saying, hey, actually what's light for you is true for you, I was like, I can actually live with that. And yeah, and like then like making a lot of choices and using the tools. And then I asked the question, if I quit the medical school, like what will my life be like? And there was a sense of expansiveness, there was a sense of lightness. And then it took me like 2.5 years, like really to make that choice, because I'm gonna say every time that I talked to people around me and said, "Hey, I'm actually gonna quit the medical school," people was like, "What? What do you
Right.
need to do?" Like, then what? Because in their point of view, like if I quit the medical school, like I made the best thing that is possible. So if I quit that, like what I'm going to choose, and it was just so confusing for them. And I get them, it made them actually really, really uncomfortable at the same time, because it was just so unknown, especially for my family. And in that time, like I didn't get it totally, but I get it later, because like in their life, the experience they had was based on like, for you to be successful, you have to go to university, like you have to at least have a degree, and that means like you're safe, like you will at least be can go to university and like work there, or like government would pay you amount of money, like you are not gonna be on streets. So like when I actually said, hey, I'm actually planning to choose that's totally different, and it's a crazy things as access consciousness, they're totally freaked out. Yeah. Mm.
I think that's a beautiful sort of history of the choice to make a left turn. And it's
Mm.
interesting. We have a couple of other people who actually became doctors and then walked out on it. It doesn't seem there's so many people in access who found that what they were supposed to do in life just didn't make them happy. And here's a question.
Mm.
How much of your struggle in medical school was because you didn't really want to be there? It was not light for you.
Mm. Yeah. And I get like that was the main part. And like afterwards, I learned from Access, like we are aware of everybody's thought, feelings, and emotions
Yeah.
around us. And like like for me, it's really hard to be in a place like if there's a lot of people like don't want to be there, it's like because I can actually pick that up. And I had the point of view like I don't want to be here, or like I hate like being here. I'm like super stressed. And because I didn't have like any of this information, I thought like, oh, like this is all is me. And I would just look everybody around me and they will seem they would able to make it work. And
Yeah.
I get like that was one of the things that really made me hard time, because I was like, what is wrong with me? Like everybody seemed to like fit in, everybody seemed to like make this work. Like what is my problem that I cannot make this work? And like even if I work 10 hours a day, like still I was not able to get the information, because as you said, Marlene, I was actually not interested in
Right.
the information.
This is boring. Yeah. Well, that's what most of us try to do before we make left turns, is to fit in. And if they can do it, why can't I do it? And then judge ourselves, and which never gets us anywhere. So have there been other left turns that you're aware of? Other times when you truly trusted yourself to do what was light for you?
Yeah, and I get like that was one of the parts like after like quitting the medical school, because I had the idea that if I quit the medical school and I became a BARTS facilitator, everything would work magically, and I just actually don't have to do anything. Like everything will be showing up, and actually I achieved that. I actualized that. I became an access BARTS facilitator, and after I become a facilitator, I realized, oh, like this is not the end. This is the only the beginning, and I actually required to generate my business. And like one of the things that was really surprising for me, like after I starting to generate my own life and my own business, like how much little is being we are educated in school about like how to deal with difficult people, how to handle taxation, like how to like generate a business. Like there's so many different aspects to it, and I had no information whatsoever about like what they are. And like for me, like really making that commitment of, hey, like I will have a business that I enjoy doing, and like and then willing to really be and do like whatever it takes to actualize that. Like for me, that was it was just like a huge realization, because I had like so many point of views and so many like examples on like I would watch people on social media or like in YouTube, and they would always make it seem like money will come, like, and like you have to be like rich, or like you just work, you have to work a little. Like there's like so many like lies and like so many misinformation about like what is required. and and then like really like finding like what works for me. it was
Yes.
a it was a totally different journey, and that's why I'm like extremely grateful for access consciousness, because I would just watch like different people, and like Dane and Gary, because like I would just watch people and they always like tell me like what I should be doing, and like what is the right way, and like what is the wrong way, like what I should be avoiding. But it wouldn't work, because actually I was not asking a question based on where I am,
Right.
and just asking, oh, like what will work for me here. And that could be like totally something different
Yes.
than anyone around you. And like for me, like that was the biggest, I'm gonna say, encouragement that I had with quitting the medical school. Because does that mean like everybody that stayed in the medical school, they're wrong, or are they right? No. It's just a choice they made, and like it may be working for them, but it just didn't work out for me. And I get like really the beautiful part of the tools of access consciousness, like asking you questions so you can actually starting to discover that what works for you, and at the same time like knowing that you can make a choice, and if it doesn't work, you can make another choice.
It sounds like when you left medical school, by that point, you were really willing to ask questions, to be different, and to do what worked for you, no matter what anybody else was doing.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm gonna say like it was kind of like interesting like to make that choice because like I would actually I tried to fit in like dynamically and I was like really like pushing hard to like fit in and then I would just like come home and I would like try to be right at the same time. Like that was the reason that I wanted to fit in because if I be right, then I won't be wrong and everybody will love me and all of those thoughts and then I would actually like choose what everybody would told me to choose and in the end I will be super miserable and like even if everybody see me like, oh, like that's Troy, like he has a lot of friends and he's in medical school, like in outside and he has a girlfriend, like outside everything was like super perfect. Like my family was super proud of me because I was in medical school and like deeply inside, I was like this can't be it. Like if this is the only thing that I can have, actually, like for me, this is not valuable for me. And when I actually have that experience, I was like, okay, like I am going to choose something different, even if the people around me like don't like it. Because like for me, like the most important thing, like when it like I make that choice, like being peaceful with even if somebody like likes me or not, like for me that was so much more valuable. And for me, that allowed me to make that choice because now like still some people like me, some people don't like me. And when I was choosing, everybody told me to choose, like still that people, like some of them was liking me and some wasn't like still not liking me. So however hard I tried, it didn't it didn't work. Like there was no place like that everybody was like, oh, like Troy is wonderful or like this is it just didn't work for me. And I get like that was the breaking point and I was like, okay, like this is actually required to change. Yeah.
Well, to make that change from the external world, I'm doing it right. How come I'm miserable? To the internal knowing, that's a huge change. That's a huge left turn in and of itself when we all begin to trust ourselves to know what's going to work for us and we don't give a care about whether people like us or not.
Mm, yeah. I was like, should I say this? But I get like, and like one of the things like really, really like allow me to look at that. And like when you say like, yeah, people like caring, and like for me, like when I look at like people caring about me was even not about me, it was more
No.
about them. Like they were like, oh,
Yes.
like if you quit the medical school, like am I actually going to tell my son is just like came from high school or he just like finished high school, like is that what I'm going to say? Like I can actually like perceive like everybody's thoughts and I was like, oh wow, like what everybody's telling me is not even about me. They don't actually care
Yeah.
what makes me happy because I would actually told them like, hey, I'm not happy here, but they would say no, like just keep going. And I was like, what? Like,
Yeah.
why should I keep going? And like, then, like, I just looked at, oh, like everybody that is judging me or like telling me like what I have to do, they don't actually even like be with me and don't be present with what is valuable for me. And like when I just really see that, I was like, so why should I care about
Yes.
what they're thinking about me if they actually don't even like value what makes me happy really and like what is valuable for me, which is like I don't care like if I'm doing like facilitating access consciousness or like I like my target was like doing something that I actually love and I'm it just
Yes.
makes me light and makes me happy and like for me that was thing like facilitating classes, it just makes me so much joyful and it just lights me up and it makes me super enthusiasm and like for someone else who's listening this it can be like something that's totally different and yeah, it's just so beautiful. I get like what really following what works for you, like what's light for you, and knowing that when you actually choose that, universe does have your back. Because I had the point of view, if I choose what makes me happy, I'll be poor, I'll be in the street. Yeah.
Well, and what a good point you make, that when people say they care about us, a lot of times it's just about them, like you said. It has nothing to do with us. It has everything to do with what they have projected as the image of who we are and all of that. So why would we bother? You know, it's so much more fun to do what you did and find what makes you happy and excited and joyful. And you radiate that energy, Troy. It's really lovely. And I'm sure that your clients are like, wow, I'll have what he's having, which is not necessarily being a bars or CF or anything, but it's following what's true for each person, you know, what brings them joy. So I think that's really
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. And yeah, it is like really beautiful. And like just like seeing like when I make a choice for me and like what works for me, like then how everything like changed around my parents and my family and my friends at the same time. Like yes, there was people that leave my life, which I'm
Right.
really happy because they already
Bye-bye.
yeah, exactly. And they were not like there for me, they were there because I was fitting into their judgments of who they want me to be. And like when I really decided to choose for me, like then like all of my relationships that either like just change totally or they starting to become greater. And like with my parents, like right now I have like so much more space, so much more ease, like so much more possibilities available because I realized like one of the main things that they were concerned about that I was not going to take care of myself. Like they had the point of view like I wouldn't be able to like have a life or afford living, and they wanted to make sure like I am safe. And in their point of view, being safe means completing university. So at least you are safe and you have something safe. But I knew there was something that is different available beyond all the entrainment and beyond all the roles that everybody took. And I was like, hey, actually I'm just gonna go there. And like for me, yeah, I know I'm saying this a lot, but I really am like super grateful for Access because it just allowed me to really like trust what I know. And like that's like what's the target of Access Consciousness, empowering to know like you know.
Yes,
And
I love it.
it's yeah, me too. It's so different and it's so beautiful. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Troy. I think this will be an inspiration for a lot of people. As I said before, your energy and your joy just comes through, and you said it all very well of choosing for you and knowing what you know to be true. So thank you.
And thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm just so honored and so happy. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, and I hope to meet you in person sometime.
Yes, please.
Thank you so much for joining this episode of Left Turn. I wonder what embracing left turns could create in your life. What magical possibilities might show up. Remember, when you choose left turns, you are joining a group of the most creative and brilliant people the world has ever known.